We're the worst.
Millennials. You know, usually on these podcasts, I probably haven't done this kind of podcast in a long time. We kind of try to forecast what's coming. I think the last one I did like this was like the dollar menu or something like that. But, you know, you hear it on TV, the millennials don't have any money. The millennials are this, the millennials are that. And I always think when the TV is telling you guys what you are, there's an opportunity to make money. A big opportunity. Not because you actually need it, but because the TV keeps telling you that this is what millennials do. All around the country right now, if you go out and have any kind of inkling and paying attention, you're going to see the same kind of apartments being built. The apartments are built with either a market downstairs or some kind of fruit bar, some shit, some juice bar or something, a Starbucks or some coffee spot. These are all being integrated into the apartments. They're like the bottom floor. If you cats live in Long Beach, California, they did that a long time ago. If you cats live in Atlanta, you see it around Midtown area where they keep putting these apartments with sprouts. If you live, you know what I'm saying, I'm sure it's going on all over the country. And I wanted us to talk about this shit today because I want you to be able to capitalize on it. Now let's go through the basics of what they think a millennial is. Someone, whatever age range that shit is, I don't give a fuck. The thing it is that most of them do not have a good job. If they do, they've been living with their mother. Most of them did not get a car, and most of them use Uber, right? In other words, like I tell my nephew, because I'm sure he's in that generation, I said, you guys are broke with technology. Okay? It's just different. It's just broke with technology. So when I talked to my nephew about it, I said, now, ask yourself, how can you capitalize off these cats? What things could you sell them? Because this is who they are. This is what they not. You know, one day a couple of them gonna wake up and say, "What the fuck they talking about? I make money." And, you know, I ain't in that shit. But the grand majority of them are gonna do the same thing. So for me, I sat down with my nephew trying to figure it out. You know, trying to brainstorm on it, and I thought I'd share it with everybody here. But the future looks more like New York City. And if you ever lived in New York City or you're from New York City, you know that everyone does not have a car. Most people use a cab, Uber now, I'm sure. And this is the life they live. So when you look at the way they live, when I used to live there, I got rid of my car. I used to catch the subway. You know, I'm still pretty regular. I like the subway. But there were products that sold all the time because of this kind of person and this kind of life. And some of the things that sold, especially in New York, were like hats and, you know, things to carry your bus pass and all kind of shit. Now, the major thing I want y'all to think about for this time is, since Uber and all these Lyft and everything is taking off and all these dudes are driving for it and not making any goddamn money off of it, but you have to ask yourself, what is the essential thing that can go with Uber? This is your mission for the millennials. What is the essential thing, you know what I'm saying, that a person who orders Uber or gets an Uber driver, what does he need or she need? And if you figure that shit out, you got millions. Because that's what the future holds. Second, all of these apartments are being built near certain transit lines. Remember I tell you about buying houses and why I tell you to put them near the trains and everything else? If you come to these cities, most of them are being built near some kind of major freeway transit line somewhere where what I like to call poor people, poor educated people. Poor people already knew this. Like Compton got a lot of freeways and shit. Poor people knew where to be. You're near the bus lines. Poor educated people, called millennials, they're doing the same basic shit for them. So what is it that a person who has to get up in the morning and walk to catch a train, what do they need? My homies in Chicago should understand this and apply game. My homies in New York should understand this and apply game. Even out here in the West, you should be able to look at how everybody get on a blue line and everything and apply game, because this is the future. The future is a whole bunch of broke motherfuckers walking. You understand what I'm saying? That's the future. So what do they need? Walking shoes? You know what I'm saying? What do they need? Lighter bags? What do they need? You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of you young cats, y'all go into these apps, and I don't have no issue with that. My nephew is trying to create an app. The biggest thing to me is that, to me, I consider that to be a fad, because how many apps do you actually use on your phone right now? Motherfuckers keep making them, but how many do you actually use? But when we analyze this type of person, see, I got a base understanding of what kind of cat these are. See, to me, it's the extension of your college years. If you've been to college, you remember how you were scrapping, remember how you were bumming rides and shit. In Baltimore, when I was in Baltimore, you know what's funny is Uber. In Baltimore, the cats already had it figured out. It was called a hack. It would be dudes on the street with their hands up like, I'll pay you to give me a ride somewhere. And then somebody quantified it and made it, Uber. But what does a poor cat on the street coming in college, what do they do? You know what I'm saying? They need snacks on the go, right? They don't really got a lot of money. Motherfuckers need to make a Hot Pocket vending machine. Motherfuckers love Hot Pockets. You know what I'm saying? Everybody bumming off each other. Everybody sharing spaces with each other. These are the things that you should be concentrating your mind on. You know what I mean? Because broke motherfuckers with education get a nice apartment and sit there and say, I got a roommate as a grown man, which is something I never understood, but fuck it, I ain't living that life. When I was in New York, it would be, what I used to call jackpot. You meet one girl and you go over her house and she got like 3 roommates. So in my head, like jackpot. It's like a lot of women in this mother. Then her friends got 3 other fucking friends that they stay with, and you just keep meeting more and more women. You know what I mean? Jackpot. Another 3 motherfucking women in a 2-bedroom place. Damn, there's women everywhere. So you gotta think about what people do in tight quarters. What do smart, young, hopeful cats do in tight quarters? You understand what I'm saying? What do people with a limited amount of money do? You were selling alcohol, you come up. Because, that's what they have. They have something to drink. I'm trying to give you a mind state to understand the kind of products to pitch to these kind of cats. This is what you should be thinking about. The whole country at this moment is building apartments betting on these millennials. You right? They just think it's a whole shift. They don't think they're going to buy houses. Not right now. Cable thinks that y'all don't want cable because y'all got Hulu and all this shit. So cable ideas are out, right? Until you get married and then you want the shit in your house. You ain't gonna be walking around with your movie phone off of the day. Right? All these people are betting in what I can call creating a market. Telling young motherfuckers what they should want. They are creating a new, what I like to call, how you say, following the Jones. Someone is reinventing the Jones millennial style. Oh yeah, I got an Uber thing, and I do this and I do that. That's what they're doing, and that's what you have to concentrate on. That's what you have to get on top of. Some of you cats are millennials. A lot of you cats listening to me are millennials. And the question you have to ask yourself is, do the things I like, is that what everybody like? And you got enough friends to go do a test market. Say, man, you know what? What if I gave you a Uber, track your Uber pad, or something simple, right? And you just say, okay, how, and then you listen to people, see if people need it. Find out, do some fishing questions, man. It's a lot of people who just get on that Uber shit all day. I use it to go to the airport sometimes, you know what I mean? But it's a thing of, you got to figure out what, not the Uber driver, because fuck him, he got to keep making that bullshit taxi money. He ain't making taxi money. But I'm talking about all those customers. What could you offer to those customers in their Uber experience? Uber is the Facebook of this millennial generation. I want you to know that. All right? It's every one of these apps and technologies comes out and it belongs to a certain generation. Twitter, Facebook, one generation. You know what I'm saying? Uber, another generation. Foursquare, all this shit. Generation. Uber is theirs for this generation. If you happen to live in the Bay, and you happen to be in, San Francisco, Oakland, all that area, you know that it was Uber, all these places were based in these areas because look how congested it is. That's what every city is trying to build. They're about to drop 10,000 motherfuckers in a small area. And they need to give them everything. And you might not be in position to give them a pizza place. Right? But what is it? See, a lot of y'all are living this moment right now. Get up in the morning, you catch the damn train right now. You have friends that you could do a case study with to see what's happening, and you will know what to offer. When I told you the recession a long time ago when I first started, I'll tell you about the dollar menu. Remember I told you on the dollar menu, until McDonald's gets rid of the dollar menu, you know the recession's not over. The recession's not really over because now motherfuckers got 4 for $4 and $1.50 nuggets and all kind of shit that lets you know, hey man, motherfuckers ain't really spending their money yet. And now they are betting on another generation of poor but educated people. Right? Maybe you want to get a healthy snack to go. They over there putting goddamn nuts and giving you those little cheese and crackers fucking snack packs when you were a kid. Motherfuckers made healthy cheese and crackers snack packs. Right? What is it that you could sell them? What is it of their generation? And you don't have to be so technology oriented. Motherfuckers still need toilet paper, homie. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers still need all kind of shit. Don't try to be trendy in the shit. You gotta go for the essentials. What do they need every day? If a motherfucker walk all day, he gonna need more shoes than most people. Right? If a motherfucker run all day, he gonna need more shoes than most people. But I don't like to concentrate on what I call these dudes should go running. You know, the population, like they're telling you, most of the population is getting bigger and more obese. That's a market, right? But I don't bet on obese people love cannolis. I don't, that's not a mark. That's not an angle I think about. I think about big people need bigger shirts. Bigger shirts mean this. Bigger belt buckles. Bigger, you know what I mean? What can I jump in there and do? Bigger bowls than normal, you know? If motherfuckers who want to eat like a hog, maybe I should make a small trough. You know, the trough bowl. I want you to think about this because it's an opportunity ahead of us again. It's right in front of us. Maybe a year or two from now, the shit will be popping. When they start finishing those apartments and they all, I seen some places, man, and they as soon as they weren't even finished, the motherfucker was living there. You know what I'm saying? Like phase one, like they do with track home. Phase one is now done, and then come on in and buy a house and get your place for phase two. They did that with apartments, and also a lot of these apartments like to have the rec area, right? It reminds me of being in the dorms. That's why that's the angle I'm going with it on. If you want to know me personally, I see the continuation of college kids in dorms. Like that is what the millennial is to me. Right? How do we continue this same bohemian, hustling, going nowhere fast, I'm bored, let's get drunk mentality? And you got to bet on the millennials. You got to see what they want. So let me give you my basic analyzation of the time so you'll know. When I was in school, all of us were basically the same, kind of young, ambitious, but stuck in fucking college. When we all got out of college, there was a group of us, not me, I don't want to put us, a group of people who it was still kind of what I call continue college on. Now I had to go, man. We about these chips on me. I got to go. But they got married. They were all in fraternities and sororities, and they still together. And when I go catch up with my peoples, it feel like we back in college again. You know what I mean? His girl is now his wife, and they got kids, and it's basically the same shit. But in that first jump, everybody clustered together. And everybody would go to work together, and they had their little fucking Hyundai or Honda, right? But now, I want you to take that shit away from that basic thing that you know is true, and I want you to go down to when motherfuckers are poor. Okay, what are your poor college friends doing? Where did they go? How did they live? You know what I mean? And that's the market. Why I bring this up is because when I see something, just like I'm talking about right now, I always think, I'm always ahead of schedule. I watch buildings being built and I wonder why. You watch buildings being built and you wonder if you can rent. What's the rent? I don't give a fuck about that. I'm wondering why, what are they doing, how many are built in a cluster. I start looking up how many building permits were given to this certain city area, which you can find out on the internet. How many of those were apartment buildings, right? Where are they going to be located? You can find all this shit out for free. And now you can be ahead of where they're going to put a cluster of people. And that generation wants new. I always tell people, they don't give a fuck. They just want new. So if it's a new apartment, ooh, nobody shitted in these toilets. Ooh, nobody ass was on the bottom of my tub. Ooh, right? You got to get ahead of it. Now, my challenge to myself is to try to find out what they would want, you understand what I mean, for their day-to-day. Because those are the things that make millions. When I was in New York, it was always, do you want to pass for your a little holder for your Metro card or whatever? Or, do you want this? Do you need this? And there was always that little keychain with the little plastic shit that land you. And I always said, that motherfucker got to be making millions. I mean, every day, maybe 2 or 3 people, or maybe 15, 20 people grab one of them motherfuckers a day. Right? So I can only use what I lived, and what I lived was New York, and what I lived was San Francisco. So I have an idea of a cluster city. Some of you cats might have been to Tokyo. You might be looking at the same thing. The biggest thing you want to look at is a lot of these places are trying to make it what I like to call live, work, and play, but not the old way where it's like you get up and you know what I mean, all this shit's clustered. They're doing it what I like to call, if y'all ever been to Hoboken, New Jersey, y'all haven't, y'all should go. They got a lot of bars over there. What they did with Hoboken was revamped it, put some, made the apartments above it, a lot of liquor and stuff about it. So when they came home off the pass train, it would just be tons of white people going to have drinks and shit and living in the apartments above. They're trying to do the same shit. They're trying to do the same shit here. And that's what I want you to capitalize on. That's what I want you to think about. They're about to create a fucking market. You know how they build a whole bunch of housing? And then when they finish building the house, you ever see how all the time they build a supermarket? And once they build a supermarket, then all of a sudden Red Lobster and all this shit, all these steak houses, and then Target show up, and then Lowe's show up. They're about to do the same shit again in a more condensed form, because they actually need to create a walking neighborhood. When you see in Atlanta that they're building walking paths and biking paths on the street, taking lanes from motherfuckers like me who like to drive, right? They are creating another kind of society, right? They want that European shit. Like if you ever been to Amsterdam, some of y'all cats haven't, but they have this bike understanding. And they want this kind of bike life. Never forget the one thing I want you to know about picking this shit, okay? This is something that you need to know. White people desire to be European. And if they can get a piece of Europe in their life, they love it. Now, some of you are going to say, Freeman, why are you identifying white? Because they are the dominant population. As they go, so should your chips. Right? And if they want to feel European all the time, fucking give it to them. But understand, what does European mean? What do they really want? Motherfuckers want German beer. Motherfuckers want Italian gelatos. Motherfuckers want to sit out on the side of the road with those little, sit outside and eat a sandwich. Right? And they want cafes and all this shit. But they still gotta walk home. See, we can't get into the game sometimes with being the coffee maker. But we can? We could probably be the coffee deliverer of a certain kind of coffee. They creating a market for us, the hustlers. The customer thinks they're creating a life for them, but for the hustlers, they're creating a market for us. Your job for the next year is develop your millennial customer package. What products are you going to push to this newly created, newly brainwashed group of people? And when I come up with it, homie, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm doing. I'm just gonna make money. But I just wanted to share this with you as we move on and progress. It's time for us to pay attention to the world. Spring is here. Summer is coming. Do you have something to sell? Because you know people are gonna be looking to buy. Next time, partner.